Hello there, wonderful YouTube people. This is going to be a quick little tutorial slash rundown of how I made this bronze shader that you see over on the right here. And I'm going to be posting this entire Blender file as well, so that'll be in the description below. So the first thing that's notable here is that I'm using LuxCore, which is not one of the default renderers in Blender. But it's also free, and I'll link it in the description below. And I'm not going to get into why, but most of this should be pretty easy to replicate, maybe even easier to replicate using cycles. So let's get into it. So this is a material meant for sort of a bronze statue look with some of that oxidation patina that you get with bronze sculptures. And so it's built out of three different materials. First off, we have a bronze base material, which looks like this. So it's kind of this dull bronze. It's got a little bit of a sheen to it. Then I have a highlight material, which is a much brighter, almost gold-looking metal material. And then finally, there is the patina material, which is a duller, greenish material, kind of get that Statue of Liberty vibe. And this also has a bit more of a bump map than the other two, because generally that those patina sections are a bit rougher. So whenever you're working on anything where you're going for realism, it's really good to have a reference. So I've been using this primarily, censored because YouTube is a bunch of fucking Philistines. Anyway, so you really want to take a look at your reference and identify the different phenomena that are giving it the look that it has. So here we can see that there is this these highlights here. These aren't metal highlights. These are Fresnel reflections off of some sort of a coating or oil or something on the surface. This isn't the reflection coming off of the metal itself, because metal reflections tend to change the color of the light being reflected back. So that's why, a gold looks gold, is because white things reflecting off of gold look gold, because the cooler colors are absorbed. So this is, and you can see that these kind of show up much more on the edges, whereas when the material is face on, you don't get as much of it. So that's a Fresnel highlight. So that means that there's a clear coat over on the material. So that's one aspect. Then we've got some of these parts that are more raised are brighter. So that's where this highlight material comes in. You've got the duller areas that are in the indentations, and then finally in the deeper indentations over here and here and here, you get that green patina. So those are the four separate layers that make up this material. And also, it's worth noting that you can see there's lots of little bits of texture in here, and I think that's a really important thing to note when you're trying to go for a realistic material, is you just put noise everywhere. You want to put noise everywhere, because everything in the real world has noise. Nothing is perfect, and everything will look better with more noise, within reason. Anyway, so let's go and look at the patina side of things first. So, oh, whoops, that is the wrong input. So if we look at just the patina material here, first off, we can see that it's not purely green. That's because I'm using a cloud texture here, which is just a essentially random noise. It looks like this. So this is the underlying noise that drives the green mixing with a more differenter green. So we've got kind of a more green and a more teal color, and I'm mixing those together using these clouds. And this is actually a really subtle effect. You probably almost can't see it in the final render. And I think that's another really good rule of thumb when you're going for realism. A lot of the noise in things is really subtle. So oftentimes what I do is I will make the difference between the two colors bright enough to see, so that I can, check that what's happening is happening how I want it to be happening. And then once I'm done with that, I'll turn everything down so I can just barely not tell that it's there anymore, because I think this is one of these things that the human mind kind of subconsciously picks up on, these little variations in color. Another thing is I don't or almost never use pure matte materials, because almost everything in real life has a little bit of a Fresnel sheen to it. So that's why this patina is actually using a glossy material that's just had its roughness set really high. So it still has a little bit of those specular highlights. So that's the patina. And also notable is that I noticed when looking at this that the patina parts looked a lot rougher than the rest of the statue. The rest of the statue has a very, very smooth finish. And so to emulate that, I have another one of these cloud maps that's just, random noise essentially applied to the whole thing. But specifically for the patina material, I have a bump shader here that's set to 3 millimeters, whereas this one here that applies to the rest of everything is set to 0.5 millimeter. So that's just to give the green patina a little bit more roughness, and you can probably see it if I zoom in. Well, maybe not. Anyway, so that's the patina shader. Next up, let's take a look at the highlight shader. And so these two are just essentially your bog standard metal shaders. So this is, I'm sure this would be simple to do in Cycles. Maybe I don't know how this works in Cycles, but maybe you'll need a metal material with a glossy clear coat, because like I was saying earlier when we're looking here, this glossy coat, this is a Fresnel reflection. This isn't a metal reflection, so it's combining two different kinds of reflections to get this effect. So in Lux, I just used the Disney material, and I gave it a little bit of clear coat and made that clear coat glossy. And this is something you probably just have to play with a lot. For me, it took like 4 hours to get all this set up correctly, and it involved a lot of just going back and forth between the reference and my render to tweak things to get them right. So you notice that the base bronze still has that clear coat, but it's less glossy and it's duller. And that's just kind of empirically determined by trial and error. And so and here we have the bronze material again, so that's just kind of that dull color. And then obviously all the magic is happening here in these blend boxes. So the way that works is I'm using a concavity / convexity shader. It's called pointiness in Lux, and I believe that in Cycles this is also called pointiness, but it's somewhere in geometry nodes. I saw someone comment on the Reddit post regarding that. I don't use Cycles myself, so I wouldn't know, but I think that's how you would get to this. And again, I'm piping a bunch of noise into the constituent parts of this shader, because I want to give it more of that organic feel. So the way that looks is, here we have the highlights blend. So this is the map that drives where you have the like bright bronze versus the darker areas. And I actually split out the like pointiness values into two spinners here, just so it's easier to control. So let me just demonstrate. So if I turn this down to 1, you can see that it gets much darker, and you get some of these white patches, and these are actually coming from one of these. Well, yeah, I think. Well, these are maybe errors actually, but in addition to just using this highlights shader, which on its own, well, let's see, on its own looks like this. Okay, yeah, so these are errors in the way that it's calculating the concavity. So if I really cared about these, what I would do is I might take this generated map and then bring it into Photoshop, like bake it onto the surface, bring it into Photoshop and manually edit these out. And actually, when it comes to like really going for realism, I would probably not go with a fully procedural shader, because you'd want to get more control over all these like subtle little patterns and striations. Anyway, but in addition to just having this pointiness shader, I used, what did I just mess up? So in addition to having this this pointiness concavity shader, let's put this back up to 10. I also have some more noise piped into it, and that's again just because noise makes things look better. So this noise is being piped into the, where is it being piped into? This is the, okay, so wait, I think I just messed something up. Oh, right. I don't even remember how my own thing works. So basically what I wanted is to get some of these little chips, little splotches here of the darker, kind of duller bronze in the bright parts. And to achieve that, I created this splotchiness shader. It looks like this. If we zoom in here. Let's go into this mode. I'll zoom in on a flatter part. And go back into the preview. Okay, so you can see how there's all these little chips of varying sizes, but the problem is that applying this to the entire thing just looks a little bit too uniform, and so that's where this second noise texture comes in. And so basically what I'm doing here is I'm masking out that first texture with the second texture. So now those little splotches only come in on the white parts of this bigger noise texture. So you get a little bit more variation in where those splotches show up. And I think that's just like, it's just another one of these things that's really important when you're chasing realism, is humans are really good at detecting patterns. So you kind of want to do whatever you can to break up any obvious patterning, because that'll set off your, this is a fake detector up in your brain. So that's basically how all the blending between the different types of materials is done. And I do essentially the same thing with the patina, except for the patina, I didn't bother with any sort of these subtle variations, and I just went and piped it in almost directly. I just added a noise texture, and this noise texture is just to take some parts of the patina, and this is really subtle, and maybe I could have done with tweaking this a little bit, but this is just so that not every sunken part has that green patina. And again, I like to keep all these noise textures really subtle so that you almost don't notice them. And then I just essentially mix the bronze base, the highlights, and the patina together using those black and white maps that I showed you just now. And so I'm just going to pipe that into opacity real quick so you can see kind of what's going on a little bit more clearly. So these are just the highlight parts, and that's the highlight material, and it's being overlaid on top of the patina plus the base material, basically just driven by that black and white map that we saw earlier. It looks like this. So basically that's just determining where those gold parts are. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Please, leave any questions you have in the comments. The downloads for all the stuff that I used will be in the description below. Oh, and before I go, I'll just do a quick demo of what it looks like when you move these spinners. So like let's say we want to turn that highlight down a lot so it's a little bit less burnished, so you can see kind of those highlight bits go away. And then if I took this and turned this up to like 30, you can see that that gold becomes a lot more prominent. And the same thing goes for the patina. So yeah, feel free to play around with those. And if you get some interesting results, I would really love to hear about it. So you could find me on Twitter and Twitch and on YouTube. Just, yeah, DM me. I would love to see what you guys come up with. And have a great day. Bye.